Imagine a massive volcanic eruption that could wipe out an entire continent. The only solution left is to drop a nuclear bomb inside the volcano. But the real disaster, the survival of millions of people, depends on the country's most dangerous prisoner. Will this suicidal mission succeed, or is it the end of the world? Let's find out. This is In Chang, a professional explosives expert. In Chang is happy today because it's his last day on the job. He's finally retiring. And this is his wife, Ji Young. She goes to the doctor to find out the baby's gender, but she refuses to tell In Chang. She decides to keep it as a surprise instead. While In Chang is on his way back home, a massive earthquake strikes the city. This is due to the eruption of Mount Paektu, located on the Chinese-North Korean border. The earthquake violently hits Seoul, and buildings begin to collapse. In Chang tries to reach his home amidst the destruction. Even though buildings are collapsing all around him, he miraculously survives. We then cut to the office of Professor Kang. He receives a visit from the Senior Secretary for Civil Affairs, John. John asks him to help them with this disaster, but he refuses. This is because he had warned them about it years ago, but everyone ignored his words. Kang is preparing to travel to the United States. However, John threatens him with prison if he refuses to help. This is because he has an old criminal record. Kang finds himself with no choice but to accept their offer. After a while, we see him in a high-level meeting. Kang begins to talk to them about Mount Paektu and the volcano. He tells them that the volcano consists of 4 stages. Everything that happened was only due to the eruption of the first stage, and that was the weakest one. This means a massive disaster is still on the way. The final stage of the eruption will completely destroy Korea. But Kang has a solution to the problem. He tells them they must create a tunnel under the volcano to reduce the pressure of the eruption. And the only way to create such a tunnel in a short time is by using a nuclear bomb. Of course, the military leaders dismiss the plan. Using a nuclear bomb on the border means restarting the war against North Korea. However, since it is the only solution, they finally agree. We go back to In Chang, who is meeting with a military officer. The officer delivers the bad news. He tells him that he cannot travel because the country needs him. He begins to explain Kang's mission to him, and he orders him to get ready because he will join the execution team. In Chang goes back home and asks Ji Young to travel alone. Ji Young is understanding. She asks him to return safely so he can finally find out the baby's gender. The next day, we see In Chang in the operations room. The team leader explains the plan to him. He informs them that they need the nuclear bombs. Of course, these nuclear bombs are located in North Korea, but they face a major problem. The North Korean authorities refuse to cooperate. Therefore, they must infiltrate and reach the location of the nuclear bombs. To find the hidden caves where the bombs are kept, they decided to seek help from one of their spies inside North Korea. But unfortunately, this spy has been captured. So their first mission is to rescue him. And only after that, they can move to the location of the nuclear bombs. The operation consists of 2 teams, a technical team, which includes In Chang, and a combat team to secure them. Each team boards a private military plane to fly into North Korea. While they are in the air, a malfunction occurs in the combat team's plane. Everyone is forced to parachute out, even the technical team, so their mission isn't compromised. But the combat team does not survive, and their plane explodes. In Chang reports to headquarters that the combat team is gone. The commander orders him to retrieve the map from the combat team leader. In Chang enters the burning wreckage and grabs the map right before the plane completely explodes. After that, the commander shocks In Chang with the news. He tells him that he is now the official leader of the mission. He orders him to rescue the spy, secure the nuclear bomb, and plant it under the mountain to detonate the volcano. In Chang is shocked, but he has absolutely no other choice. The team moves toward the prison to free the spy. They discover that the prison is in total chaos and all the inmates are escaping. However, the spy is still locked in his cell. The team goes down to the cell blocks and they finally reach the location of the spy, Jun Pyong. Jun Pyong is shocked by their appearance. Meanwhile, the team is terrified of him because he is highly dangerous and could harm them. In Chang informs him that they are a rescue team sent to save him, but on one condition: he must help them reach the nuclear weapons. Jun Pyong laughs at them. It is completely obvious from their behavior that they are not a real combat team. Junpyong steps out of his cell and tells them that before he helps, he needs to take a shower first. Since In Chang is not trained for these situations, he decides to let Junpyong do whatever he wants before they set off. Junpyong secretly steals In Chang's wallet. He goes into the bathroom, takes a shower, and cuts his hair. Then he takes the map out of In Chang's wallet, memorizes it, and eats it. When they hit the road again, In Chang notices that the map is missing. That's when Junpyong reveals that he ate the map. One of the team members hits him, but Junpyong explains that he did this to guarantee they won't kill him. While on the way, Junpyong asks to pull over to use the restroom. The moment he steps out, he waits for his guard to turn his back and unties himself. He immediately attacks the guard and beats him up. In Chang realizes that Junpyong has escaped. When he searches the area, he finds the tracking device lying on the ground. At that exact moment, he realizes they are dealing with a highly dangerous spy. But In Chang is smart. He remembers when Junpyong mentioned that his house is next to the statue of the North Korean leader. The team heads straight there. Sure enough, Junpyong is inside his house, making a phone call, telling someone that the South Koreans are inside North Korea. At this moment, we discover that Junpyong has become a double agent. Junpyong is married to a drug addict. He threatens her to find out the location of his daughter. When he learns that she is with her uncle, who lives near Mount Paektu, he becomes furious. We also learn that his wife was the one who handed him over to the military. Because of this, he decides to end her life. In Chang and his team hear a gunshot and rush into the house. When they enter, they discover that Junpyong didn't actually kill his wife. They arrest him once again and take him back to complete the mission. Junpyong leads them to an abandoned factory. He tells them that the nuclear weapons are hidden beneath it. However, he warns them about the North Korean soldiers guarding the facility. When he asks about their plan, he discovers they don't have one, so he instructs them to cut the power to the building and use night vision goggles. The plan begins and one of the team members goes to shut down the electricity, but of course he fails and ends up shooting the power box instead. The lights go out everywhere except for the first floor. In Chang and Junpyong are the only ones trapped on that floor, while the rest of the team is on the second floor. Suddenly, the North Korean soldiers open fire on them, and they are completely outnumbered. But Junpyong has a plan. He tells In Chang to throw himself to the ground. Then he stands up to surrender, claiming that he has killed In Chang. As the enemy soldiers approach them, In Chang suddenly shoots and kills them all. After that, the team regroups and heads down to the nuclear storage room. The team begins dismantling the nuclear warheads to escape with them. But at that exact moment, the second wave of the volcanic eruption begins. Junpyong exploits the chaos and escapes from the facility. The factory begins to collapse, and the team starts losing all hope. But unexpectedly, Junpyong returns once again and saves them. The factory collapses completely, but In Chang and his team escape just in time. With the nuclear warheads, on the other side, Professor Kang discovers a critical error in his calculations. The fourth eruption will happen much earlier than expected. They must execute the mission faster, or everyone will die. We then cut to Ji-young. She is on her way to the evacuation point, but on the road, the river level rises rapidly due to the earthquake. The bridge is completely destroyed, and Ji-young suddenly finds herself swept away in the rushing water. We go back to In Chang. He raises his gun at Junpyong, demanding the map in exchange for his freedom. But Junpyong refuses to draw the map because he doesn't trust him. Moments later, a North Korean sniper aims his rifle directly at In Chang, but Junpyong quickly grabs In Chang and pulls him out of harm's way. Even though In Chang was just threatening him, Junpyong saves his life. The North Korean military begins to open fire on them. The team realizes that the enemy is using thermal imaging masks. Junpyong immediately comes up with a dangerous plan. He takes a gas truck and drives straight toward them, forcing them to shoot at it. When the truck explodes, the massive fire blocks the thermal vision of the soldiers. But a shocking surprise happens when In Chang kills one of the enemies. He discovers that they are American soldiers. Their secret mission is to seize the North Korean nuclear warheads. Junpyong and In Chang load the nuclear warheads into a vehicle and escape. But suddenly, Junpyong shoots In Chang with a taser gun, knocking him unconscious. In Chang wakes up and finds himself tied up inside the car. Junpyong informs him that he is going to hand him over to the North Korean military. While on the road, Jun Pyong pulls over to use the restroom. In Chang takes advantage of this moment and unties himself. He even swallows his tracking device so the rescue team can find his location. When Jun Pyong tries to stop him, In Chang fights back and takes control of the steering wheel. But Jun Pyong engages in a brutal fight with him. This causes the car to lose balance and it flips over a high cliff. Fortunately for them, the car remains dangling on the edge. Meanwhile, we see the American commanders at the South Korean headquarters. They demand that the South Koreans hand over the detonator and stop the operation immediately. This is because the United States will take over the mission. Professor Kang hears this and prepares to leave because his role is officially over. However, John stops him and begs him to stay and save his country. But Kang refuses, completely determined to flee to America. On his way to the evacuation zone, Professor Kang runs into Ji Young. At that moment, he begins to blame himself for abandoning his country, especially since her husband, In Chang, is risking his life to save it. As soon as they arrive at the evacuation zone, security refuses to let Ji Young inside because she is not an American citizen. However, Professor Kang is allowed to enter since he holds American citizenship. Looking at her, Kang decides to turn back and brings her inside with him. At that exact moment, the third eruption begins. The sea level rises rapidly, and the ship that was supposed to transport them to the United States sinks. Professor Kang takes Ji Young, and they quickly flee the scene. After that, Kang calls Joan and asks her for a highly dangerous favor. He wants her to leak the American military secret plan. John gathers the intelligence and passes it directly to Kang. We learn that the U.S. military intends to move the nuclear warheads to an area right next to Mount Paektu. John tries to escape the facility, but American soldiers capture her. However, loyal South Korean soldiers quickly provide her with a getaway car to help her escape. We return to In Chang, who has finally decided to cooperate with Jun Pyong to save the day. They take the detonator and head toward the explosion site. But on the way, they take a brief break to drink some sodas since they haven't had anything in a long time. Suddenly, American soldiers ambush them to kill them and seize the detonator. But out of nowhere, two members of In Chang's team arrive, crashing into the scene with a massive bus. They all manage to escape from the Americans just in time. The bus successfully crosses the bridge, but the bridge collapses completely right as the Americans try to cross it. The next day, we see Jun Pyong and In Chang drawing their weapons on each other once again. Jun Pyong asks In Chang to let him go. He draws him a map of the mountain's entrance, officially completing his part of the mission. In Chang allows Jun Pyong to leave so he can finally reunite with his daughter, and In Chang continues on his way with the rest of the team. After a short while, Ji Young manages to contact In Chang with the help of Kang and John. Professor Kang asks In Chang to change the plan immediately. Instead of heading to entrance number 9, they must go to entrance number 7. But of course, In Chang has no idea where entrance number 7 is. He quickly rushes back to search for Jun Pyong because he is the only one who can help him. Meanwhile, Jun Pyong finally reaches the location of his daughter, but she is terrified of him because she hasn't seen him since she was a little child. Before he can even embrace his daughter, the North Korean intelligence agents arrive. They demand that he hand over the detonator, which he had previously told them he possessed. When they discover that Jun Pyong does not have the detonator with him, they are on the verge of killing him. But suddenly, the U.S. military arrives and guns down the North Korean agents. The moment In Chang arrives at the scene carrying the detonator, everyone stops shooting. In Chang tells them that he has already activated the timer, and they only have minutes before everyone dies. Terrified, the American soldiers and the remaining North Korean agents flee the area. In Chang asks Jun Pyong for the map to entrance number 7, but Jun Pyong decides to go with him. He hands his daughter over to the rest of the team so they can escape safely. Jun Pyong and In Chang arrive at entrance number 7 and plant the detonator, but they face a major obstacle. The elevator that is supposed to take them deep beneath the mountain is broken. Someone must manually go down to detonate the bomb, while another person cuts the elevator cables to drop it down. At that exact moment, Jun Pyong steps inside the elevator and locks himself in. He looks at In Chang and tells him that he has nothing left to lose. But In Chang has a pregnant wife and a full life ahead of him to live. At that exact moment, the fourth eruption begins. In Chang takes the vehicle and drives away at full speed. Deep beneath the mountain, Junpyong successfully activates the detonator. Just in the nick of time, the volcano explodes from within, and the ultimate danger is finally over. We then see the Korean people celebrating the success of the mission. 1 year after these chaotic events, the Korean government begins rebuilding the nation. We see In Chang living happily with Ji Young, their newborn baby, and Junpyong's daughter, whom they adopted. And that brings us to the end of our movie.